Hello students, I am here with the second part of the chapter, the last lesson from the book Flamingo. Yesterday we discussed that when Franz reaches the school, he finds certain strange things in the school. Taking the advantage of the noise of the classes, he just wanted to take up his seat inside the class, but on that very day the school was as quiet as Sunday morning. That is why he had to open the door, and he has to face everybody along with his teacher, but his teacher doesn't rebuke him and allows him to enter the class. And then his teacher announces that it is their last French lesson, and the orders from the Berlin have already come that the German language will be taught in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. Now let's proceed further. When Franz listens to the words of his teacher that this is his last French lesson and they need to be very attentive, Franz finds these words as a thunderclap, as it has been written here. What a thunderclap these words to me! Oh, the wretches! That was what they had put up at the town hall. Now these words were like a thunderclap for Franz, and now he understood that what was there on the bulletin board. And 1 minute please. Next, he says, my last French lesson? Why? I hardly knew how to write. I should never learn any more. I must stop here then. Oh, how sorry I was for not learning my lesson, for seeking birds' eggs or going sliding on the Saar, my books that had seemed such a nuisance a while ago. So heavy to carry, my grammar and my history of the saints were old friends now that I could not give up. And Mr. Hamel too. The idea that he was going away, that I should never see him again, made me forget all about his ruler and how cranky he was. Okay. My last French lesson, now Franz feels that he has learned nothing about his language. He has nothing learned about his French language, and he has not even learned how to write it. And he was very much sorry that he never paid attention to the lessons of the teachers taught in the school. And he was always interested in seeking birds' eggs and go for the sliding. And now he says that my books, which were always a burden for me, they were like old friends for me now. I won't get any opportunity to read them. He was very much surprised, as well as this idea also surprises him that his teacher is going away and he won't see him again. This all made him forget about his ruler, his teacher's ruler, and how cranky his teacher was. Cranky mean very strange kind of person. Okay, so these things, they affected him very much. Now he says, poor man, it was in honor of this last lesson that he had put on his fine Sunday clothes. Yesterday we had discussed that his teacher was wearing a new dress. Now he understood why he was wearing the new dress or the Sunday clothes. He had worn that dress in the honor of his last lesson. And now I understood why the old men of the village were sitting there in the back of the room. It was because they were sorry too that they had not gone to school more. It was their way of thanking our master for his 40 years of faithful service and of showing their respect for the country that was theirs no more. So now he understood the reasons behind teachers wearing new dress and why the villagers, old people of the village, they were sitting in the back of the class. Of course, they had come to say their thanks to the teacher, French teacher, who had given his services in that school from last 40 years, and they were also sorry that they had not got any opportunity to go to the school. Means they haven't learned even their own language. That is why they had come there to show their respect for the country as well as for the faithful services of that teacher. Now next, while I was thinking of all this, I heard my name called. It was my turn to recite. What should I not have given to be able to say that dreadful rule for the participle all through, very loud and clear and without one mistake? But I got mixed up on the first words and stood there holding on to my desk, my heart beating and not daring to look up. Then suddenly my name was called by the teacher. It was my turn to recite the lesson or to give the answer to the questions related to participle, but he says that I got mixed up in the very first words and I kept on standing there without saying anything and holding on to my desk as well as my heart was beating and I was not daring to look up in front of my teacher. And those dreadful rules for participles which were to be spoken very loud and clear without a single mistake, I got mixed up and I could not give the answer. And it was very humiliating for me. It was shameful on my part, he says. Then I heard M. Hamel say to me. Then my teacher told something. He said, when I didn't answer, I didn't speak anything, my teacher said, I heard M. Hamel say to me, I won't scold you, little friends. You must feel bad enough. See how it is. Every day we have said to ourselves, wow, I have plenty of time. I will learn it tomorrow. And now you see where we have come out. That is the great trouble with all says. She puts off learning till tomorrow. Now those fellows out there will have the right to say to you, how is it? You pretend to be a Frenchman and yet you can neither speak nor write your own language? But you are not the worst. Poor little friends, we have all a great deal to reproach ourselves with. Now the teacher is telling him the reasons why he could not learn his lesson. He doesn't scold him and he tells him that little friends, you need to feel bad enough. We all need to feel very much bad enough. Actually, what happens, this is a human tendency that everybody puts off his work till tomorrow. Nobody does it. And the same is the example of Alsace and Lorraine. He says that the people of Alsace and Lorraine, they are having the same problem. They put off learning till tomorrow. And now, when the Germans will enter, they will come here, they will have all the rights to say that you, Frenchman, you pretend to be Frenchman, yet you can neither speak nor write your own language. Actually, this is not the case of only you, friends, the teacher says. You are not the only worst, poor little friends. We have all of us are equally responsible for it. All of us should be reproached for it. He gives the reasons. All of us, why all of us? He tells the three things. First, who are the people responsible for not the right learning of the students or the children. He tells, your parents were not anxious enough to have you learn. Your parents never liked you to go to school. They preferred to put you to work on a farm or at the mills. Your parents wanted to send you to the work in the farms, in the fields or in the factories, so as to have a little money, so as to have a little more money. Means they wanted to add to the total income of their family. That is why they wanted to send you to the work. So they are to be reproached with. And then he talks about himself being a teacher. I have been to blame also. I am also worthy to be blamed. Have I not often sent you to water my flowers instead of learning your lessons? I used to send you to water my plants instead of asking you to learn your lessons. And when I wanted to go fishing, did I not just give you a holiday? And whenever it came to my mind to go out for fishing, I used to declare holiday for you all. So I am also responsible for it. I also should be blamed for it. Then from one thing to another, M. Hamel went on to talk of the French language, saying that it was the most beautiful. Then he talked about this and that, and finally he talked about the language, French language, saying that it is the most beautiful language it is the most beautiful language in the world, the clearest, the most logical, that we must guard it among us and never forget it. Because when people are enslaved, as long as they hold fast to their language, it is as if they had the key to their prison. So he said that the French language is the most beautiful language in the world. It is the clearest language. It is the most logical language, and it is the duty of each and every citizen of the country to guard it. And we should never forget it. We should keep it with us. And he tells that when a nation gets enslaved by other nation, then if the people of the slave country keep hold on their language, then that hold on the language becomes the key to the prison of slavery. Means the people can get the independence from slavery if they keep hold on their language. Then he opened a grammar and read us our lesson. Then I was amazed to see how well I understood it. Means after that the teacher taught them grammar, and friends understood everything. Everything was clear. All he said seemed I had never listened to. All he said seemed so easy. So easy. Whatever he taught was very much easy. I think too that I had never listened so carefully, and that he never explained everything with so much patience. So today I realized that I had never paid any attention in the class of my teacher, and probably he too might not have explained everything with that much patience in the class. It seemed almost as if the poor man wanted to give us all he knew before going away. It came to my mind. I realized that the poor teacher, he wanted to give away everything, all the knowledge he has amassed through the years. He just wanted to convey to his students and to put it all into our heads at one stroke, as if he wanted to he just wanted to convey all his knowledge into our heads. After the grammar, we had a lesson in writing. That day M. Hamel had new copies for us, written in beautiful round hand. France, Alsace, France. So Alsace. So after that, there was a lesson in writing. Our teacher had come with the new copies for us, and they were carrying beautiful round-handed writing, and it was written there France, Alsace, France, Alsace. They looked like little flags floating everywhere in the schoolroom. Those words, it seemed as if they were like the flags which were floating there in the room, hung from the road at the top of our desk. You ought to have seen how everyone set to work. All the students, they started their work quietly. Nobody was talking, and how quiet it was. It was all silent in the class. The only sound was the scratching of the pens over the paper. In the class, there was no noise except the scratching of the pens over the paper. Once, some beetles flew in, but nobody paid any attention to them. Usually, children are very much curious to see the activities going on inside and outside the class. But that day, he said that some beetles flew inside the class, but nobody paid any attention to them. Nor even the littlest ones, not even the smallest kids, younger students. They also didn't pay any attention to the beetles, who worked right on tracing their fish hooks, as if that was French too. The young ones were tracing the paper, they were tracing the fish hooks, and it seemed as if those fish hooks were the French language. On the roof, pigeons cooed very low, and I thought to myself, will they make them sing in German, even the pigeons? Suddenly, some pigeons started cooing outside on the roof, and it came to my mind whether they are going to make these pigeons also sing in German. But students, it is not possible. A person can be slaved, his body can be slaved, but his mind cannot be slaved. Here nobody can make any control over his language, over his mind. But this comes to the mind of young friends, whether the Germans are going to make pigeons sing in German, but it is not possible. Anyways, whenever I looked up from my writing, I saw M. Hamel sitting motionless in his chair and gazing first at one thing, then at another, as if he wanted to fix in his mind just how everything looked in that little schoolroom. Fancy, for 40 years he had been there in the same place with his garden outside the window and his class in front of him. So whenever I looked at my teacher, he was sitting motionless in the chair, and he was looking at one thing and then the other. He was trying to catch an image in his mind of each and everything which he had prepared in the school, outside the school, inside the school, garden, everything. Then, just like that, only the desk and benches had been worn smooth. The walnut trees in garden were taller, and the hopine that he had planted himself twined about the windows to the roof. How it must have broken his heart to leave it all, poor man, to hear his sister moving about in the room above, packing their trunks, for they must leave the country next day. So now he wants to say that this teacher, he had given his services in that school from last 40 years, and he had planted the saplings, the trees, the walnut trees was there, and in the garden they had gone taller, and benches in the classes they had been born smooth, and the hopine he had planted himself, and it has reached the roof through the windows, and it would have, all these things, when he was looking at all these things, would have broken his heart, because he has to leave that school now. And when he on the above, he might be hearing his sister moving about in the room above, who was packing their trunks, because they will be leaving the country very next day. But he had the courage to hear every lesson to the very last. After the writing, he had a lesson in history, and then the baby chanted their ba, vi, vi, ba, we, vi, bo, bu. Down there at the back of the room, old Hauser had put on his spectacles and, holding his primer in the both hands, spelled the letters with them. You could see that he too was crying. His voice trembled with emotion, and it was so funny to hear him that we all wanted to laugh and cry. Ah, how well I remember it, that last lesson. So, but our teacher, of course it was his last day, but he had the courage to hear every lesson to the very last. After the writing session, it was chanting. It was the lesson in history. Then the babies chanting, who chanted ba, be, vi, wo, wu. And then at the back of the class, old Hauser, who was putting on his spectacles and holding that very small book in his both hands, he was also spelling the letters with those young students. And Fran says that it was very different kind of atmosphere in the class. We just wanted to cry as well as laugh at that fellow whose voice was trembling with emotion. It was so funny to hear him. I remember, I would never forget, he says, I would never forget this last lesson. All at once the church clock struck 12. Then the Angelus. Angelus is the Roman Catholic prayer, means the church clock struck 12, and then the prayer started. At the same moment, the trumpets of the Persians returning from drill sounded under our windows. Mean the Persian soldiers, they were returning from their drill, and the sounds of trumpets could be heard in the class. M. Hamel stood up, very pale in his chair. I never saw him look so tall. On that day, it seemed as if my teacher is very tall. And when he got up, he was very pale. He said, "My friends," said he, I. He just wanted to say something, but something choked him. He could not go on. He could not speak anymore. Then he turned to the blackboard, took a piece of chalk, and bearing on with all his might, he wrote as large as he could. Then he turned to the blackboard and took a piece of chalk and wrote something as large as he could, and it was Bible France. Bible France. It means long live France. Then he stopped and leaned his head against the wall, and without a word he made a gesture to us with his hand. School is dismissed. You may go. The school is over, the class is over, and you may go. So this was the last lesson in French language. Okay, students, I hope you might have understood it, and now you have to read it out thoroughly. And if you find any problem, you have to call me. You may ask me about your queries. And now note down the homework. You have to write down the answers to these questions in your notebooks and send me the photographs of your homework done. Okay, so this is the homework. You can note them. Short answer type questions. Please note them down one by one, and after that write the answers. These are 9 questions. Long answer type questions are also there. 2 long answer type questions. You have to write the answers to these questions in 100 to 120 words, and for short answer type questions your answer would be from 30 to 40 words. Okay, so this was your first chapter of the book. The last lesson, book's name is Flamingo. Yes, first chapter of the book, first chapter of the book, Flamingo, and the name of the chapter is the last lesson. It is complete. If you find any problem, you may call me. It was your teacher, Narinder Kumar, PZ English, Kendriya Vidyalaya Naleti. I wish good luck to you. Stay safe, stay healthy. Good luck. Thank you very much.